Hello there and welcome friends. This video is all about a shapeshifter build, so you can change into all sorts of animal and even a dragon form to easily destroy all of your enemies and achieve victory in Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. I personally have always been a fan of shapeshifter builds, especially builds that can change into monster forms, and they can certainly be powerful in this game, as I'm about to show you. Alright, so let's get started on our shapeshifter build, and we are of course going with Druid. After all, Druid is the class that gets access to special wide shape forms as soon as level 4, with upgrades at 6, 8, 10 and 12. Druids even eventually get a very powerful shape change spell, which lets them become dragons. That's right, our Druid shapeshifter will be able to turn into a dragon eventually. And here's the best part about Druid. Druid as a full divine caster can actually merge with the angel mythic path. So not only do we get access to all of the extremely powerful angel buffs and offensive spells, we also highly increase our spellcasting progression, which does mean way faster access to shape change and the dragon forms, which we'll be able to get at around the end of chapter 3. So still plenty of game to play as a dragon, for a very fun gameplay experience. Now as far as archetypes, if this was Kingmaker, then I would choose Defender of the True World. However, there's barely any Fey enemies in Wrath of the Righteous. You can certainly go with base Druid, as it's powerful enough, but for this build in particular, I'll be going with Primal Druid, as I want to try something different. Primal Druid has a more limited animal companion selection of basically the ancient animals like the dinosaurs. Now you might have noticed that I usually say dog and wolf are the best pets, but frankly I have picked them so many times that I want to try something different. So I'll be going with Smilodon for our Primal Druid. And I know a lot of people like Smilodon after all. He's pretty infamous from Kingmaker. Besides that, Primal Druids also get the Primal Size special ability. You gain Enlarge Person as a level 1 spell, which is amazing for the early game, especially as the level 1 Druid spells are somewhat disappointing. And starting from level 8, your Enlarge Person when cast on the Druid will give him a +4 size bonus to Strength and Constitution, which is rather big, becoming +6 at level 16, but by this point we can already cast Legendary Proportions. It's mostly for the early game and chapter 2. Now you might ask why not go with Elemental Rampager, who can actually enhance his natural attacks with elemental damage. Well, the reason is simple. As you might notice here, Elemental Rampager does not get an animal companion, and that's a big loss in my opinion. Even if you don't like pets, you have to agree they make a massive difference gameplay wise when it comes to empowering your party. So I'll be going with Primal Druid. Human of course for the extra feat, and druids are somewhat feat starved. As for background, you have two choices. If you are playing this build from level 1, then I recommend you go with warrior and then mercenary, because this background gives you access to long spears, and long spears are reach weapons, which will highly help us during the early game. After all, we can only first turn into an animal at level 4, which is towards the end of chapter 1. With a long spear, we'll be able to attack from safety until then, especially considering we can also cast Enlarge Person for even higher reach, while our pet tanks for us. If you don't care for reach weapons like long spears, or is respecting your character so you'll start higher than level 4, then you can go with the usual pickpocket background for the bonus to initiative rolls. So let's pick warrior and then mercenary. As for ability points, as a shapeshifter you certainly want to focus on strength, dexterity and constitution. So let's get around 17 strength, 14 dexterity, 14 constitution, and the rest of points into wisdom. Now, personally I would dump charisma because there isn't much of a point to charisma as a druid, and I rather like the idea of a grumpy druid character. So we can start with 16 wisdom. With the extra boost from headbands, we'll have enough wisdom to cast all of the spells in the game. And difficulty class doesn't matter for us, because, well, we basically want buffing spells, and the angel spells that deal damage don't have a saving throw for damage at all. Now for skill points, I would go with perception, lore nature as we are a druid, and the other points are up to you. You can go with the other two knowledge skills. I'll pick world and also athletics, as we can achieve very high strength by changing into animal and dragon forms. Alright, so let's talk about our first level 1 feats for our druid. As usual, I really like going with power attack and then cleave. As I said, this character can use long spears as early as level 1, and cleave means basically 2 attacks per round, as a level 1 character, which can make for a very fun and very smooth early game experience. As a druid we only get another attack at level 8, so that's a lot of levels we'll benefit from having cleave. As for animal companions, as I said before, we have a limited selection as a primal druid. I would go with the Smilodon. It certainly feels like the better of all of the ones we have here. And as usual, the infamous Smilodon does have 5 attacks, just at level 1, which we can increase later on to around 7, with haste and also a Scald ally. For deity, remember that as an angel we need to be neutral good, so I would go with Gosre. For the nature theme, be sure to give your character that classic druid beard, a Man of the Wilds hairstyle, and we can begin. For a level 3 feat, you have two different choices. You can go with Shake It Off if you want to increase your saving throws, or Combat Reflexes to get started on our attacks of opportunity, and this is the option I would personally choose. After all, as a druid we are somewhat feat starved in the early game. At level 4 be sure to increase strength, as with all of the other levels. And this is also when we gain the wolf form. I'll talk about each of the wild shape forms in a later section of this guide. For a level 5 feat, pick natural spell. With this we can actually cast spells while in the animal forms, and the animal forms are basically what we'll use until around level 13 to 14. Of course you can ignore this feat if you aren't going to be casting spells while shapeshifted, but I do think it's useful, and it can certainly help when casting the very powerful angel spells like Storm and Bolt of Justice. At level 7, the choice is simple as usual: outflank, to increase the power of our attacks of opportunity and even gain more AB when flanking. For a level 9 feat, pick Seize the Moment to finish our attack of opportunity feats. At level 11, go with Improved Critical and then Bite. Most of our main shapes have a Bite as a primary attack, including the Leopard and Smilodon, which are basically the best of the animal shapes. It is true that they also have a lot of claw attacks. However, remember that whenever we get an attack of opportunity, that attack will come from our primary attack, so a bite. This is why I pick Improved Critical Bite first, as you will be getting a lot of attacks of opportunity from our other party members. For our level 13 feat, go with Improved Critical and then Claw. So now we have 19 to 20 critical range in our main attacks, Bite and Claw. Starting from level 15, you have more freedom when it comes to your feat selection, as we already have basically the best ones. Because we already have Cleave, I would go with Cleaving Finish to grant us a free attack whenever we kill an enemy. But you can also pick something like Improved Initiative, or even get started in the path to the Shatter Defenses feat by going Weapon Focus, Dazzling Display and then Shatter Defenses, but I don't find it needed. As an angel we have a massive amount of attack bonus, especially as a shapeshifter angel, so I'll go with Cleaving Finish for now. The same for level 17, you can pick whatever you want, depending on which path you want this build to go now. You can also go with Great Cleave and then Improved Cleaving Finish later on, but I think it's a bit overkill. I would personally go with Improved Initiative, as I do like acting before the enemy, especially during the late game, where enemies tend to have a lot of initiative. At level 17 and 19 you can also go with Improved Critical Other Natural Attacks if you fancy using the dragon forms, as they do have wing and tail attacks, and I do believe they are classed as other natural weapons. They certainly aren't gore. As for level 19 you also have some different choices. For example, you can pick Extend Spell, or also pick it earlier at 17 instead of Improved Initiative, so you can extend some of your round level spells into 24 hours, as we are a merged angel who can do this just fine, starting from 25 caster level, so somewhere around the end of chapter 4 and the beginning of chapter 5. This will require you to later pick Enduring and Greater Enduring spells, however, which is what I'll do for this build. Alright, now let's talk Mythic Progression for our Shapeshifter Angel Druid. For this character in particular, I would actually pick the Demon First Ascension close to the Abyss, because of the extra gore attack. It is wise to invest in as many attacks as you can. Now it is a bit silly of course to be an angel that has the Demon First Ascension, but anyways it works. If you don't want that, you can also go with Instrument of Freedom to buff your party members' attacks. As for your first mythic ability, Master Shapeshifter of course, to highly increase our physical stats when chained into the animal forms or the dragon form later on by a massive +4. For mythic level 2 I would go with extra mythic ability and then Ever Ready to enhance our attacks of opportunity. For mythic level 3, Elemental Barrage. And Druid can actually proc Elemental Barrage with ease because of a very powerful synergy between the Acid Maw and the Genie kind spells, and you can cast both of them. Acid Maw at level 1, and Genie kind comes at spell level 5, So whenever you hit level 9 as a druid, which is at the end of chapter 2, so just in time for mythic rank 3. For example, I have just cast the cold version of Genikind on my Druid Dragon, so from a bite he actually dealt a little cold damage. Now notice that right after that my Smilodon Grimon actually also deals a little bit acid damage to the same locus we are attacking. However, if you notice here, Hunter, who is our druid, is treated as the source of the acid damage from the Acid Moss spell. There are some spells in the game that work like this. Basically, the caster is treated as the source of damage, such as with Firebrand. What this means is, even with just a single casting of Genikind, so long as you cast Acid Maw on your pet, and here's the acid effect around it, your druid main character will be able to proc the bonus from Elemental Barrage, which is this 35 damage here, so 96 divine damage, because we are at mythic rank 9. Very fun, right? Merge your druid spellbook of course with angel, and there we go. The angel spells are now all added to our spellbook. For mythic level 4, improved mythic critical, and as I said before, I prefer to choose bite first, because it is our primary attack, but you can also go with claw if you prefer that. I will be getting the other one after this. Now as far as the angel mythic abilities, remember that I already have a guide explaining all of these abilities, and also the angel spells, so for now I'll keep it simple and go with Everlasting Flame to increase our Sword of Heaven duration. Now at Mythic level 5 you have a few different choices. If you want your build to have as many spell slots as possible, after all the angel spells are pretty powerful, you can get started on the Abundant Casting line of feats. Because this build is more focused on attack, I already have an Angel Oracle that is more of a caster. I won't bother with Abundant Casting for now and go instead with Enduring spells. Druids have a lot of powerful buffs, and the same for Angel. For your improved Angelic Halo, Piercing Rays if you have casters focused on difficulty class spells in your party, like Nanio. Otherwise, you can also go with Flame of Life for more healing, or Solo Winds for some very useful resistances, especially to force Unholy, Holy and Divine damage, which you can't really get anywhere else. Because I don't have any other DC focused caster in my party, I'll pick Solar Winds for now. At Mythic level 6, improved Mythic Critical and then Claw, or Bind if you picked Claw before. For your improved Sword of Heaven, Abolish Guile. At Mythic level 7, Greater Enduring spells, as this is somewhere around the time where we'll also reach 25 caster level to turn those very powerful 1 round level spells into 24 hours duration. But remember, as I said before, you can ignore these feats and go with the Abundant Casting line if you want more spell slots, or even pick other feats if you don't want to bother with any of them, such as Mythic Charge and Mythical Beast, to empower your Smilodon pet. For another Halo ability, I'll go with Flame of Life. For a level 8 Mythic ability, Mythic Power Attack, as the extra damage can be very decent considering all of our attacks per round that we get as a shapeshifted Smilodon or Dragon. And also the highly powerful Speed of Light, Greater Sword of Heaven ability. Now as far as your last mythic ability at level 9, as usual you have some different choices based on what you want your character to specialize in. For example, if you want very high armor class, then pick Archmage Armor, but I don't find this needed, as Angel gives you a lot of extremely powerful defensive buffs. Mythic Charge for more damage. I'll personally go with Mythical Beast to empower our Smilodon. For another Halo ability, well, it's basically between Piercing Rays and Burning Bright at this point. I'll go with Burning Bright as I never picked it before, and my leftover party members don't bother with difficulty class spells, at least not for this run. Alright, now let us talk about each of our shape-shifting forms and the best ones for each level. So as soon as level 4, we first gain Wild Shape Wolf. As a wolf, you gain 1 bite attack that also has the tripping ability, just like the dog and wolf pets, which is very powerful because it is an innate property of your attack. So whenever you attack as a wolf, you automatically attempt to apply trip to the enemy as a free action. Now it is true that the wolf only comes with a single attack by default, but you can also increase its number of attack by casting haste, and also having a Scald with Animal Fury for an extra bite attack, and Lesser Beast Totem for 2 whole claw attacks, so that's quite a lot of attacks coming from your Scald. And this can all be gained pretty early game, so even your level 4 wolf can achieve a decent number of attacks when properly prepared. At level 6, we'll gain the ability to change into a leopard. Leopards are a neat upgrade over the wolf because they actually have 3 whole attacks, 1 bite and 2 claws. Unfortunately, unlike the leopard pet, they don't trip on their bite attacks and they also do not gain the pounce ability, so once again having a skull will highly enhance the power of your leopard shape. If not for the extra number of attacks per round, you might even consider just keeping the wolf because of the trip attack on the bite. Just remember that it does have lower attacks per round than the leopard. Now at level 6 we can also change into a small elemental. I'm not particularly a fan of the elemental forms because they often only have a single slam attack. I'd say the most powerful use you can get out of them is the fire and also the water elemental forms because they deal either fire or cold damage on hit, which makes for easy proccing of elemental barrage when you combine it with the acid maw and the genie kind spells. But honestly, I would rather go with the animals. So at level 10, you gain the very powerful Smilodon shape. The Smilodon form is probably the second best form in the game besides the dragon shape. The best part is how many attacks you have per round. I know it says 2 claws and 1 bite, but this is actually wrong. The Smilodon shape has 5 attacks per round, the same as the Smilodon pet and the Smilodon enemies, which is what makes them so powerful and feared. And just like the Smilodon pet, you also gain the pounce ability, so you can charge and make a full attack, but remember, your Scald can also provide that to all of your party members. And although the Smilodon shape does not trip on hit, they do have a massive amount of attacks per round, so just look at it go. Around 8 attacks at maximum level, certainly more than enough when you consider we are also going to get quite a lot of attacks of opportunity by having our party members attack with us. We are after all alone here. Last but not least we have of course the ultimate shape change forms, the dragon forms, and you can use them as a druid by casting shape change on yourself, a level 9 spell that as a merged angel you can get as soon as chapter 3. Shape change for the dragons works just as if Dragonkind 3, which gives you a massive boost to strength, constitution, natural armor class, frightful presence as well, which can be fun for shaking the enemies and making them run away in fear from you, but most importantly a massive amount of attacks per round, 1 bite, 2 claws, 2 wings and 1 tail slap, so that's even higher than the Smilodon. The only downside is that, as you can see, well, the dragons are rather large and they occupy a lot of space. But remember, you can simply go for the Smilodon form as I said before, and it's certainly powerful enough to deal with the enemy threats, so you don't have to be a dragon all of the time if you don't like the large hitbox. As a shapeshifter, with this build at least, you can have a massive amount of ability scores, especially your physical scores, a pretty decent damage per round, and this isn't counting all of the extra boosts we get from Angel that only show up during battle. For example, on a critical hit we were able to deal close to 500 damage, as this all comes from the same main attack, and something like 150 to 160 with a normal attack. A good amount of attacks per round as well, a decent armor class value, although we have reach as most of our forms, so we won't really be getting targeted that much. Pretty good attack bonus too from all of the buffs we have as an angel and a druid. And I know once again some might be saying, well, but this is only at the late game. Well, as a reminder, I make my builds to be viable from the early, mid and late game. This is why I pick some feat choices like for example Cleave at level 1 with a background that gives you access to long spears for reach. And don't forget, as soon as level 4 we already get our first wild shape form, the wolf. Never mind having an extremely strong pet as soon as level 1. And of course the Angel Spellbook merge starting from chapter 3. So this build can certainly be powerful from the early, mid to the late game. Okay, so let's talk now about spell allocation for our Angel Druid Shapeshifter. So for level 1 spells, in the early game you'll probably want to spam a lot of Enlarge Person, not only on your druid with a long spear for reach, especially before you gain the wolf form at level 4, but also for your party members, as Enlarge Person is one of the best early buffs in the game. And remember that as a primal druid, this will actually enhance in power when we cast it on ourselves at level 8 and later at level 16. Besides that, acid maw of course for acid damage on our pet's bite. And this does allow you to proc elemental barrage, because the acid damage will be treated as if coming from yourself, so long as you have another element, which we can easily gain to the genie kind spell or the fire or ice elemental forms. Besides that, you can also use Long Strider early on for the boost to speed, as it does have very high duration. And honestly, the rest is basically just going to be Cure Light Wounds for healing, or Magic Fang to boost your pet's early game. For level 2 spells, mostly just a bunch of Bark Skin, as it's one of the best early buffs. But remember that druids also get a very powerful animal aspect spell, and with this we can enhance our trip attacks, such as from the wolf or the leopard form, by a whole +4 competence bonus. You can also spend a few slots in Lesser Restoration to remove ability damage in the early and mid game. And also the Natural Rhythm spell, especially for the Smilodon and once you get forms with higher attack, like the Smilodon Form or Dragon forms, to increase the damage. It does have very low duration though, so for the early and mid game I would save this only for tough battles or boss encounters, for pre-buffing purposes before battle starts. As far as level 3 spells, well, we have the extended version of Natural Rhythm, and eventually, at around chapter 4, we'll be able to extend this to 24 hours duration, so perfect for buffing not only our angel but all of your pets. Besides that, Greater Magic Fang of course, to increase the natural attack bonus of our pets and your own forms. Lastly, remember that as an angel we get the Shoot from Demonkind spell, that can grant a hefty deflection boost to armor class, and druids don't get the Shoot of Faith spell, but you can just have a cleric cast it instead. Soothing Mud can be useful as well in the early game to remove ability score damage from your party members. Resist Energy Communal is useful as well, but our angel can just use Aegis of the Faithful for all of the resist energies together in just a single cast. As for level 4 spells, Echolocation, so that we can bypass enemy concealment, Protection from Energy Communal, especially the Fire, Lightning and Cold versions, which are the elements demons often use. Pure Form can be useful as well to remove some negative effects on your angel character. The same for Blade of the Sun to deal some decent damage. As for level 5 spells, we have Animal Growth of course, the best pet buff overall, but you can also leave this for other characters like Amelia or Nenio, as we do have somewhat limited slots as an angel druid because I didn't go for the abundant casting feats. The infamous Cave Fang spell of course, especially if you have a paladin, you can just destroy everything with the spell in the game. Geniekind is a great buff too, so we can proc Elemental Barrage, when also combining it with either the Fire or Ice elemental forms and the Acid Maw spell. Another very interesting level 5 spell is Aspect of the Wolf, mostly because it lets you make a trip attack as a swift action on every single round. And this will work regardless of the form you are, so even if you are a dragon you can still attempt a trip maneuver as a swift action, so you can still do all of your full attacks plus the strip attack. Besides that, if you want some offensive area of effect damage as an angel, you can also use Cleansing Flames, which we get pretty early at spell level 5. For level 6 spells, Greater Dispel Magic, as we do have very high caster level as an angel, and this is perfect for debuffing enemy bosses. Extended Geniekind, so we can make it into 24 hours later on. And of course the ever so useful Bolt of Justice if you want some heavy single target spell damage. Now the animal buffs are also great, but as I said, I like to leave this to Camellia or another caster. The same for Stone Skin Communal. At level 6 we also get the extremely powerful Aegis of the Faithful buff for a mass version of many great buffs. Be sure to cast this whenever you get level 6 spells on basically all of your tanks or characters that will be close to melee range. Most importantly yourself of course. For level 7 spells, Sunmark is absolutely amazing. It adds a massive amount of per attack damage to every one of your party members, pets included, including yourself in any of the forms. An extended version of Holy Hymn for 24 hours duration, and a +2 overall luck bonus to a lot of useful stuff. Lastly, Ward Against Weakness Communal, which is basically the ultimate version of the Ward spells, most importantly for immunity to ability damage, drain, and also fatigue and exhaustion. For level 8 spells, Cemento for the very powerful +8 bonus to armor class, and of course, Storm of Justice. Just remember that we can't empower both and Storm of Justice with meta magic rods when we are shapeshifted, which does reduce the damage potential of this spell by a lot. Avenger's Blessing is another very powerful angel buff, but it only lasts 1 round per caster level. Do remember that we can eventually extend it to 24 hours. For more level 9 spells, Fortress of the Faithful of course, the ultimate mass version angel buff. Shape Change so we can become a dragon, and a Sun Form spell. Even though we don't get a huge deflection bonus from this to armor class because we have low charisma, this spell will turn us incorporeal, and incorporeal is an amazing property because it basically means you take half damage from most sources. Unfortunately as a druid we don't get mass heal. Foresight is another buff, but I like leaving this for others. As for our ultimate level 10 angel spells, Army of Heaven, which is a long-lasting mass version of Avenger's Blessing, Phoenix Gift so we can have a self-revive, assuming we ever manage to die, and Rekindle even to revive all of your party members to full hit points if you ever need it. Alright, so let's talk about gear for our Shapeshifter Druid Dragon. We are actually a blue dragon because of the Cemental buff. Well, anyways, I think it's important to start by saying bonuses from gear will actually transfer into wild shape and dragon forms, besides the armor bonus, and also weapon bonuses of course. Everything else will transfer though, like the ability score boosts from belts or headbands, and other useful item properties. As usual, Velex's Magnifying Amulet for the amulet slot, and we don't actually need to bother with the amulets that enhance natural attacks. Remember that as a druid we can simply cast Greater Magic Fang. Now the armor slot for a shapeshifter is kinda useless. I use the Seal of Madness here just because it's pretty cool in that it's a unique metal armor that can be worn by a druid. It actually comes from a Crusade relic that you can get from the remains of the Coroless 1 item. You find it in the Chapter 4 Demon City, in one of those annoying hidden areas that can only be reached through Dimension Door. Now, the actual armor bonus won't really transfer to wild shape, so it doesn't really matter. The same for robes. As far as belts, belts that enhance your strength and constitution are my favorite ones, especially the +6 version of the Belt of Physical Might. For gloves, I really like the Claws of a Sacred Beast, because they actually increase your weapon enhancement by another +1, so here, +5 from our Greater Magic Fang and +1 from the Claws of Sacred Beast. For boots, Ronak's Sacrifice are basically a must and the best in slot for this build in particular, thanks to the huge dexterity bonus which will help with our armor class. For headbands, well, headbands of Wisdom or of Mental Perfection, but there are a few other choices if you don't care about spells or spell slots. The Triple Fin Helmet, for example, will grant you an extra gore attack per round, which can be pretty neat. There's also the Shapeshifter's Helm for a +2 bonus to armor class, but I do believe you have enough armor class and defensive capabilities as an angel as it is. Goggles of Piercing Gaze as usual for the Insight bonus against outsiders and demons. Cloaks of Resistance of course, for saving throw boosts. As for the rings, well as usual, the Ring of Evasion and the Ring of Guiding Star. As far as bracers, I like using the Braces of Armor here because our bonus from actual armor will not transfer into wild shape. The extra boost to armor class from the Braces of Armor will help increase your AC. But if you are going with Archmage armor, then you can replace this for something else. We don't need any weapons of course. And unfortunately our quick slots are locked out of use whenever we are in wild shape or transformed into dragon forms. As you can see, we'll lose access to our usable items. Now for a quick section on how to play this build, and I've talked about some of these tips before. So for level 1 to level 3 you certainly want to attack with your long spear, while also enlarged just by casting Enlarge Person on your druid. This way you can simply attack from distance, while your Smilodon pet takes care of the enemies. When you first get the wolf form, be sure to spend a few buffs enhancing your defenses, most importantly mage armor, which you can get from potions or characters like Nanyo and Wojif, and also Bark Skin and Shield of Faith. Bark Skin and mage armor last for a very long time, so even at the early game they'll last you long enough. As usual, remember to buff your character, especially as you gain more powerful spells, and I already have guides here linked down below and to the side on how to properly stack your attack bonus and also highly increase your defenses and armor class. As far as chapter 3 and plus, well, by that point you already have merged angel spells, so the game will become a lot easier, especially just by casting simple angel buffs like Aegis of the Faithful. Now how to build your Smilodon pet. I wanted to try something different this time. For example, there's no point in picking Bully because our Smilodon doesn't have innate trip on his bite and claw attacks. For the other pets, I tend to go with the normal animal companion because of evasion and improved evasion. I'll be going with Aggressor this time to increase the damage of our Smilodon further, as it does have 5 whole attacks per round, as early as level 1. As for our Smilodon character progression, well, remember that I already have a pet guide explaining basically everything you need to know about pets, including how to gear and buff them, so I'll leave that link to the side here and down below. And for this guide I'll keep it simple. At level 1, combat reflexes, and as an aggressor animal companion we also gain power attack for free, which can be great later on. Do note that at the early levels you probably won't have enough AB to overcome the penalty, so try to leave it off until you get more buffs for your Smilodon. For level 3, improved initiative. At level 4, remember to increase your Smilodon's intelligence by a +1, so he can get 3 intelligence to access teamwork feats. All your other levels besides level 4 can be spent into strength. At level 5, shake it off. Level 7, outflank. Level 9, seize the moment. Level 11, improve at critical bite. Level 13, improve at critical claw. Now from 15 to 19, the choices are up to you. I decided to keep it simple, so I went with Focus Bite and Focus Claw. And later I also picked Improve at Critical other natural weapons, but this is only in the case that you want to turn your Smilodon into a dragon. But you can also replace it for anything you want, including making your Smilodon, for example, get Weapon Focus, Dazzling Display, and Shatter Defenses. Alright, so this was it for my Shape Changer video, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed this build guide. I've seen a lot of people say that Druid is a bad class and so on, and I hope to show you with this guide that that's not true at all. Even though this build won't achieve as much damage as some others, it is certainly viable enough and fun as well. As usual, if you like this video, then please be sure to subscribe and even become a member for access to some very nice exclusive perks, like requesting personal videos about any topic in RPGs and even new games for me to play. Thank you for watching and see you next time, friends!